Time for more Live from Seattle on 820 AM KGNW.
And here we are for our second and final hour of Live from Seattle on 820 AM KGNW. And I am your guest host, Garrick Pang, filling in for the vacationing Doug Bursch. So glad to be here in the studio with you, with our friend and fellow co-laborer in the harvest field, Steve Burry, the Executive Director for Urban Impact. Welcome, Steve.
Welcome. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Glad that you are here with us. And Steve has been a friend for many years, and I have often just admired the work that Steve has done with Union Gospel Mission, and he's worked with Youth for Christ, Campus Life, many other different organizations, Emerald City Outreach Ministries, and is now serving as Executive Director of Urban Impact. And his offices are right down, actually, in my original hood, if you will. I was born into a house down on Kenyon Street off of Rainier, down in the central part of Seattle, and I know that you work down there. Tell me a little bit about Urban Impact and what you do with Urban Impact.
Yeah, definitely. I should welcome you back to the neighborhood. You need to come visit us more often down in the South End.
I know. It's been too long since I've been there.
We are a ministry that's 25 years old. We've been serving in Rainier Valley for about 25 years, founded by Pastor Harvey Drake. And we were founded originally as Emerald City Outreach Ministries, and changed our name in 2005 to Urban Impact. But we serve to break cycles of social, material, and spiritual poverty in Rainier Valley. And we do so by really focusing on two things. One is the proclamation of the gospel, sharing the good news with our community, and the demonstration of the gospel. So many times in the church, we've allowed the gospel to be divided in one of two ways, and we go down the road of evangelism and discipleship, or we go down the road of social services and justice. And in our movement called Christian Community Development, we're really trying to hold those two in both hands at the same time and work in both avenues all the time. So we try to create avenues where we can meet the needs of our community, real practical felt needs of the neighborhood, but then work to introduce them to the real need of a relationship with Jesus, and to do that kind of hand in hand. We focus in 5 areas: health, education, economic development, family engagement, and youth development, and provide a variety of programs to serve the needs in the neighborhood.
Well, that sounds like it's enough to keep you busy.
Just a little bit.
And I mean, I want to explore with you a little bit more that whole practical demonstration, because I think you're absolutely right. For too long, the Christians have been on one side of the fence or the other, and the reality is we need to get rid of the fence.
Yep.
And we need to move forward with dealing and addressing social issues, social needs, as well as continuing to stay true in the proclamation of the gospel as Jesus Christ has called us to.
You know, in the older church, I want to be careful, there was a concept of parish, where the congregation really was the neighborhood that a minister served in, and not necessarily the folks that came to his building on Sunday morning. And so what we're trying to recapture is that idea that our parish is where we're most concerned and where we're pastoring, where we're caring for people. And so if the need is education, we want to serve in an education format. Or one of the needs in our neighborhood, in lower income communities, often health issues become fairly significant disparities. And so high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, all those kind of issues that poverty that flourish in poverty, I should say.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
We want to address those issues. So we partnered with the churches in our neighborhood, and we formed a fitness center. It's called Rainier Health and Fitness. Today, we've been open since 2005, and today we have 1,000 members in the fitness center. Wow. And we actually see the most responses to folks being interested in the church and interested in changing their lives and interested in the gospel in a fitness center. And the fitness center, it's like a neighborhood community fitness center. It has all the amenities that a normal fitness center would have. It has Zumba classes, and it has seniors classes, and they call them silver sneakers, that where the seniors come in and do motion and working together, and they form community, they form bonds, and they're ready to make life change. They come to a fitness center because they want to see something different in their lives. And it's a great, flourishing groundswell for the gospel.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because I think as people realize that they want change in their lives, they realize that they're an entire person. It's not just my physical self, but you start thinking about other areas of your life once you start getting healthy in some.
Yeah, I just got a text Sunday afternoon after church from one of our fitness instructors at the fitness center, and she said, "Do you realize that 10 different members of the fitness center have visited church in the last month?" And she says 5 of them are committed to staying and being involved. And these are folks that weren't plugged into a church prior to that.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great to hear about that news in terms of what you're doing. So in terms of the health club itself then, I'm guessing it's not going to cost them as much as a membership at Gold's Gym or something like that. How do you guys work that?
Yeah, so it's been exciting. We had a commitment to establishing ministries that could become self-sustaining. And the fitness center this year is going to be in the black. It's going to be financially solvent, and it does that by providing membership fees. So of those 1,000 members, about 600 of them pay a membership fee of somewhere around $28 a month. We have scholarship rates where folks that can't afford that are on assistance, can get a scholarship rate. And then we have youth rates where kids can buy a punch card and come in and work out in one of our youth fitness programs. And the Silver Sneakers program is worked through the insurance companies, and they can sign up, and the insurance company pays for every visit they make to get healthy. So through those different revenue streams, we've been able to make Rainier Health and Fitness self-sufficient, even as we are doing it as a ministry and service to the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's awesome. Part of my reason for bringing you on the air with us, too, is just that I think sometimes, and depending on where we live, I mean, I always tell people I was born in Seattle, and then I moved back east to Bellevue. and sometimes, the bridge can separate us from different worlds. And I've been very privileged to come back into the neighborhood and be a part of what used to be known as the CCDR and just kind of connecting with some of the ethnic churches there in the inner city parts. But these needs are universal too. And so tell me about what you're doing. You said health, education, economic development. So as far as education, how are you serving that community? How are you encouraging those who are there?
Well, and the Rainier Valley is one of the neighborhoods in Seattle, when you look at the Seattle public schools, where education is really struggling to accomplish what it was intended to accomplish in public school education. And so we've got an uncomfortable number of young people that don't finish their 4-year education. Half the kids that enter high school today in Rainier Valley won't graduate from that school. We realize that this starts all the way as young as 3rd grade. There's theories of how they figure out how many prisons to put into a community by the grade levels of kids and the dropout rates, or the kids that are behind in the 3rd grade. And they use that as a term. If you're behind in the 3rd grade, the chances of ending up in a state institution is very, very high. And so they build more prisons if they have more kids behind in the 3rd grade. So we've tried to address education at an advocacy level, where we've gotten involved with organizations, a group called the Southeast Seattle Education Coalition that's rallying to help campaign for strong schools in our neighborhood, strong leadership in the schools in our neighborhood. But also, a very practical level, we're involved with 5 local public schools, and we run educational programs after school where we provide tutoring, homework centers, and we even provide in-school time leadership classes that happen. It's called the Leadership and Mentorship Project at Rainier Beach, Cleveland, Aki-Kurosi, and South Shore Middle Schools, where we're actively involved during the school day with young people, helping them make good decisions, helping them learn about kind of personal agency and how can they address the opportunity they have in the classroom to get the resources they need to make the right kind of decisions and have the right opportunities.
That's amazing, Steve. It's just so encouraging to hear what God's people are doing that is making a practical difference. That's incredible, that the fact that they can directly link 3rd grade scores to actual prison, the need for prisons. I heard about that study actually a short time ago. So anyhow, I'm excited to hear more stories, and I want to ask you about some specific stories that you may have to share after the break, after we hear some traffic, and we'll be back with you live from Seattle with Steve Burry, my guest in the studio, and Garrick Pang, the guest host, filling in this week for Doug Bursch.
Live from Seattle continues after this on 820 AM KGNW. Live from Seattle continues on 820 AM KGNW.
And we continue from the beautiful KGNW studios overlooking Elliott Bay. This is Garrick Pang, the guest fill-in host for Doug Bursch. And tomorrow, Dan Behrens will be in hosting the show. And I'll be back with you Thursday and Friday. Independence Day, 4th of July, you'll get to hear the best of Doug Bursch on here on KGNW live from Seattle, 8:20 a.m. We're so glad to have Steve Burry in the studio. Steve is the executive director of Urban Impact. And Urban Impact is a Christian community development organization. That's what officially it's called. But really their heart and their passion is for strengthening families, raising up leaders, and making disciples of Jesus Christ. So, Steve, we talked a little bit before the break about kind of the overall overarching vision of the work that you're doing. But what always interests me when I listen to radio is some of the life stories, some of the real things that are happening with real people. And maybe you could share with us some of those transformational stories.
Yeah, well, I can think of a young man that comes to my mind that I saw Sunday at church, and his story with us started in the juvenile detention center. And he was doing time, if you will, as a young person in the detention center, and connected with one of our chaplains, Glenn McCrae, who was there serving and ministering to kids and walking with them one-on-one while they were finishing at detention. And Glenn talked to him about when he got out, where would he be, what would he be doing, what did he want to change in his life. And this young man knew he had made some mistakes and really wanted to make changes. And Glenn said, well, when are you going to go to school? And he said, Cleveland. He said, okay, I'll be there. And when he got out of school, Glenn was running the after-school program, running the tutoring at the school. And this young man got in touch with Glenn, saw him there, and said, hey, I remember you. And you said you'd be here, and you are. Mm-hmm. And that started a relationship. Glenn got him involved in a program we call Empire Nights. It's a group of young people that do writing and kind of poetry expression. They perform once a month for the neighborhood and community. And
where do they do that?
They do that right at Urban Impact's offices. We have a building called the Urban Arts Center that we've just recently built from the vision of the kids to have a place to hang out and do poetry and arts and dance and sound production and video production.
Is it a particular day each month?
They do the third Saturday, of the month, and they're from 7 to 9, and they do this their poetry expression time. And this young man got involved. Well, the poetry expression time practices and writes their poetry and meets as a leadership team just after on Sunday afternoons just after church. So the national progression went from connecting the detention center, meeting at school, get involved in a youth program that met right after church, so I might as well just tie in and get to church too. Right after this kid got involved, his mom came, and she wanted to meet with Pastor Harvey and figure out who these guys were that were interacting with her son.
Yeah.
And he had grown up in the church, had a background, but wasn't doing anything with it. Today, that young man is in church. He was telling us about a missions opportunity that he had an opportunity to go with school to do something meaningful with his life. And this has only been a couple of year transition from detention center to now going out on missions.
Wow.
Pretty exciting.
That's a great story. And this transformational story, I mean, it's happening over and over again. And you actually have some of your staff, actually, and I know a few of your staff members. Tell about some of their stories, too, in terms of who you've got.
Well, we have our team. It's a very diverse team, and all of us live in the neighborhood today, but a number of our staff are from the neighborhood. Glenn McCrae, that I mentioned earlier, Glenn got involved with us as a junior high kid, middle school, actually, and started playing on a little youth basketball mentoring team, and from there progressed into being a high school intern with us. While he was in college, he got involved in some leadership programs and came on there's an opportunity for him to do a summer staff position. Today, Glenn leads our youth leadership programs as a kid from the neighborhood. Seeley Caleppo is another one. It's a young man who grew up in the neighborhood. We've known Seeley since he was a kid in day camp years ago as in grade school. And he and his brothers used to get involved. His sister was actually involved as one of our youth leaders in the program. And as Seeley went off to college, with a desire to play football, came back into the neighborhood a little bit broken, a little bit needing to make some changes in his own life, found Christ as a way to anchor his roots in the neighborhood. And Seeley found a buddy, a friend, that also had a passion for fitness, and they started Rainier Health and Fitness as two young leaders one Samoan youth, one Caucasian youth together, kind of young adults, I should say, with a passion to do something for the neighborhood. Celie leads our fitness center, is now our associate director, as a kid who grew up in the day camp.
Wow. It's just so great to hear those stories of true impact. Now, you know, Steve, for me and my day job with Stronger Families, I actually travel all over the country now, working a lot with military families, trying to help strengthen their marriage, give them what they call in the military resiliency training. So we give them skills and practical tools to help strengthen their relationships. We're now working with first responders as well. Just trained a group of chaplains down in Lewis County who will be working with police and fire folks down there. So that's what I do in Stronger Families. And I know, Steve, that one of your passions is for seeing romantic, vibrant, healthy marriages. I love the way you say that. It's on your bio, you know. Romantic, vibrant, healthy marriages. Tell me about your love, Sandy, and how that works together in terms of your passion to see that.
My wife and I have been married over 20 years, and we met through my involvement in the community and connected, and have just really been committed to how do we help people realize that healthy and strong, as we say, romantic and vibrant marriages are doable. That marriage doesn't have to be this insurmountable task. It doesn't have to be a chore that we all are not looking forward to having to do.
Right.
But that marriage can be fun, can be engaging, can be captivating. But it takes a choice. It takes work. It takes purposeful interaction, purposeful work. So we do a variety of things with our church on teaching people how to thrive and how to create romance, how to create date nights, how to at no cost, or using Value Village, buy things that can create opportunities to decorate, to care for, to love on one another in meaningful ways.
That's wonderful. And I think, it's so contrary to the message of the culture, because you see all the ball and chain when you get married and all that kind of stuff. And the reality, and Anna and I will hit 20 years this coming March, and we went through a really rough patch in our marriage around about year 7, and I think we could very, very easily have not made it through that time. But I just feel so blessed because we're more in love today than we've ever been.
Amen.
And it's very, very special. And I'm so glad that you have that vision to really impact families. You're in a biracial relationship, actually, a biracial marriage, as am I.
Yep.
My wife is from England. She's English-born Italian, and I have Chinese extraction. And your wife is African-American?
My wife's African-American, and my grandparents had an interracial marriage as well. My grandfather was Swedish, and my grandmother was Norwegian, and they had much conflict, as they said.
Yeah, and people sometimes think, well, that's not really biracial because they're both white.
Yeah.
But the reality is that it's more about culture. Tell me a little bit about, how that's been for you guys. And, 20-plus years ago, and being in a biracial relationship then was not as common as it is perhaps now.
Yeah, it's been an interesting road, and we have it has not been as difficult as some may have experienced, but it's definitely had its challenges. And my mom, when we first got married, made a statement that said, well, I guess that, relationships are hard enough, so the fact that you're from two different cultures, I guess you'll know that you have to work on differences. You won't assume things are the same. My dad made a statement that he performed our ceremony. He said, Steve, you won't stay married to the woman you marry today. And I said, what? And he said, because she'll change, and you have to make a commitment to stay married to the woman she becomes.
Wow.
And I've always thought that was a brilliant statement. And so my commitment has been, I want to fall in love with and continue to stay in love with the woman that my wife becomes, and her, the man that I become, and to change with them as we progress through life together.
Now, how did he say that again?
He said, Steve, you won't stay married to the woman you married today. You have to make a commitment to stay married to the woman she becomes.
I like that. There's great wisdom in that.
That was wonderful.
Yeah. And so how many years now? You said over 20?
20, what are we coming up on 22 this year?
Sorry to put you on the spot there,
Yeah,
Steve.
get me in trouble. She's not listening.
Because Is that a sign of the long marriage? She
It's
doesn't
a sign
listen to
that
you on
she's
the
a flight attendant, and so she's somewhere in the air.
Ah, okay. Well, we'll give you a recording of this so she can make sure you get your brownie points for that. Well, Steve, it's been such a privilege to have you with us in the studio. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing in that community that has such great need. If there are folks who want to participate in your work or come down and see the poetry night, the third Saturday, what's your guys' website?
It's urbanimpactseattle.org.
urbanimpactseattle.org.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. God bless you in your work.
Thank you,
and we're going to go now to traffic and be back with our next guest, Marvin Charles, who has another great story from being down in that difficult part of the world and his story of transformation and life, and excited to have him in the studio with us too.
Thank you, Gary.
Don't go anywhere. Much more live from Seattle coming up on 820 AM KGNW.